At least you're useful now, my daughter-in-law sneered, as grease blistered my hand. My son, her husband, didn't even flinch. That's when I stopped being their maid and started being their mistake. I'm not just his mother anymore, I'm her landlord. And she's about to learn what happens when a mother-in-law gets legal. Dinner's over. The eviction is prepped. All right, before we dive into this crazy story, do me a favor, subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The oil hissed just a second too long before Loretta reached for the skillet. Her hand was slow today, not from age, but from a bone-deep weariness she hadn't named until now. The cast iron was heavier than she remembered. As she lifted it from the burner, a blistering pop sent grease arcing across her knuckles. She dropped the spatula with a clatter that rang through the kitchen. "Shit," she gasped, clutching her right hand as angry red welts bloomed beneath the skin. From the bar stool at the island, Kendra didn't flinch. She didn't move, just raised her phone without lowering her manicured hand and muttered without looking up. "At least you're useful now." Loretta blinked at her, stunned. The comment didn't fully register until Brian, slouched in the same recliner he'd had since college, let out a long, deliberate exhale, then turned the TV volume up a notch. Not a word, not a glance. Loretta's breath hitched. The pain in her hand became secondary. Her chest felt like it was being squeezed by a slow, deliberate fist. She turned, left the half-cooked dinner where it was, and walked to the bathroom, shutting the door quietly behind her. The light was too bright, her reflection too pale. The skin was already angry and bubbling across her knuckles, the sear line tracing down her thumb like a map of every favor she'd done in this house. She bandaged it one-handed, water splashing cold and sharp as she rinsed the sting. But the tears that gathered didn't fall from the burn. They fell because her daughter-in-law had finally said what they all thought. She was only useful when she was in pain. Dinner finished itself on the burner without her. At some point the smell of charred rice reached down the hallway. No one called for her. Later that night, while Brian snored and Kendra filmed a makeup tutorial in their shared bathroom, Loretta sat on a plastic stool in the laundry room beside the humming dryer, eating a plate of cold vegetables and undercooked chicken. Her left hand cradled the notebook she hadn't touched in years. She opened it to a clean page, wrote down the date, time 6:32 p.m. Incident, verbal insult following injury. Words spoken, "At least you're useful now." She pressed the pen in harder than needed. She stared at that sentence like it had been waiting to be written her whole life. Her phone buzzed on the washer. It was late, but she didn't hesitate. She opened her messages and typed with stiff fingers. "You still deal with property rights." Sent. The washing machine beeped. She didn't get up. The pain in her hand was sharp now, but sharper still was the memory of Brian's silence. Not even a flinch. Not even his useless brand of half-hearted concern. She'd raised him with steady meals and steady hands, held him through fevers, cleaned his first apartment when Kendra wouldn't touch it, paid half the down payment on this damn house, and somehow she'd become the unpaid help. No contract, no thanks, no voice. Only the burn gave her voice. She looked at the notebook again, flipped back a few pages. Old budget notes, shopping lists from 3 years ago, Lucy's birthday party plans. She tore them out, cleanly, one by one. This book was for truth now. The house was silent, except for the gurgle of the fridge. She closed the notebook, cradled her hand against her chest, and turned off the laundry room light. The next morning, she padded into the kitchen, wearing soft socks and the same ache in her hand. The smell of her cooking still faintly lingered. Garlic, soy, something fried. The counter was wiped clean. Her good spatula was gone. Then she opened the fridge. The foil containers she'd packed, fried rice, glazed chicken thighs, the salad Lucy liked, were gone. She checked the trash. They were there, dumped like leftovers from a stranger. Chicken bones still warm, sauce splattered against the plastic. A sticky note rested on top. "We don't do leftovers." Loretta stared at the mess, the bile rising in her throat. But then, her phone buzzed. Message from Hattie, come by the office this week. I'll pull the deed. The walls remembered, even if they pretended not to. Loretta stood by the kitchen sink, hands still wrapped, and stared out the back window at the brittle grass and rusted swing set. She could see it as it once was, the day Brian and Kendra first got the keys. Brian had called her from the title office, nervous, excited. She'd driven straight over, checkbook in hand, and written $35,000 from her savings. No loans, no questions, no promises, just it's for Brian. That's what mothers do. And still, Kendra had rolled her eyes at the signing table and said, "We'll let her keep the guest room, for now." Loretta hadn't realized it then, but the way Kendra said let had been the first crack in the foundation. Now, as sunlight filtered across the cold linoleum, Loretta pulled the kitchen drawer open with her left hand and found the notebook again, the same one from the night before. She smoothed the page, turned to a clean line, and wrote, Tuesday 8:07 a.m. Eggs, toast, orange juice, coffee, all served. No thanks. Bathroom cleaned, towels folded, trash taken out, hands still burned. No one asked. She paused, then began cooking a paper trail. Lucy wandered into the kitchen, her backpack thudding against the floor, hair still sleep mussed. She slid into the bar stool and picked at her toast. You okay, Grandma? She asked, voice soft. Loretta nodded, then handed her a napkin with a slice of peeled apple. Lucy bit into it slowly, then leaned in close, whispering as if Kendra could hear from upstairs. You're not a maid. Don't let her talk to you like that. Loretta blinked. It wasn't the words. It was the way Lucy had said like that. Like she'd been watching longer than anyone realized. Loretta kissed the girl's forehead and tucked the note deeper into her chest. After Lucy left for school, the house returned to its usual hush. Not peaceful, just quiet in a way that demanded silence. Loretta padded down the hallway to her closet, shifting old shoeboxes until she found what she was looking for. The floral file folder with a bent corner and a faint smell of mildew. Inside, copies of cashier's checks, closing documents, an envelope with $35,000. Brian's house scribbled in her late husband's handwriting. It had survived a basement flood, 2 moves, and a fire in her old apartment. She smoothed the edges with careful hands, took a photo of the deed with her phone, and then walked to the post office after lunch. Her steps were slow but measured, like someone walking toward a finish line nobody else saw yet. She slid the envelope into the chute and whispered to the box, now let's see who's really living where. By the time she got home, her knees ached. She sat at the dining table, a glass of lemon water beside her, and reopened the notebook. Added financials to the recipe, she wrote. Sent copy of deed to Hattie. Meeting requested. A light breeze drifted through the cracked kitchen window. Somewhere in the house, a door slammed, Kendra's. The upstairs hallway creaked, then silence. Dinner that night was quiet. Brian asked if there were more potatoes. Kendra didn't touch her plate. Loretta didn't say a word. She ate exactly half of what she'd served herself, cleaned her dish and left the rest sitting cold in the pot. The house didn't thank her. It never had. Later that night, Loretta was brushing her teeth when the bedroom door burst open. Kendra stood in the frame, arms folded, eyes glittering like glass about to shatter. You're not seriously thinking about making this legal, are you? She hissed. Loretta didn't answer. She rinsed her mouth slowly, then looked in the mirror, at the hand she'd burned, at the woman Kendra thought too meek to matter. She patted her lips dry, turned off the bathroom light, and walked past her like she didn't exist. The plastic open sign hanging in Hattie Monroe's office door swung lazily as Loretta stepped inside. The bell above jingled, soft and worn, like it had lost its will to ring proud. The office smelled faintly of lemon polish and old contracts. Behind the front desk, Hattie looked up from her laptop, squinted, then broke into a slow, satisfied smile. Well, look what the fire dragged in, she said, standing. Or maybe lit. Loretta didn't smile back. Not yet. Her hand was still wrapped, and her pride even tighter. I brought the deed, she said, setting the manila folder on the desk. Her voice was steady, but her eyes had that simmering look Hattie hadn't seen since Loretta had chased off a school principal who tried to suspend Brian for something another boy had done. Hattie opened the folder and scanned the top page. Brian and Kendra Jameson, she read aloud, and Loretta M. Jameson, 49% co-ownership. She looked up. Well, damn, you're not just the cook, you're a stakeholder. Loretta exhaled, not relief, just validation. Finally, Hattie closed the folder gently. You didn't donate that money, you bought in, and you've been repaid in insults and garbage duty. Loretta nodded. She says I'm just living here. Hattie tilted her head. That's not ignorance, that's strategy. She knows. They both do. She stood and retrieved a business card from a drawer. Travis Klein, he's sharp, works pro bono with the elder justice folks, does more than wills and trusts. You've got standing. Let him help you shove back. Loretta took the card, running her thumb over the embossed print. It felt heavier than it looked. He'll want to see everything, Hattie added. Dates, groceries, labor, years of it. You kept records? Started last week. Start digging deeper. This isn't generosity. It's control. And now you take it back. The words echoed in Loretta's mind all the way home. Take it back. Back in the kitchen, she paused at the sink. A stack of plates waited. Breakfast's leftovers crusted dry. She stared at them, then opened the notebook beside the dish rack. Friday, 10:34 a.m. Dishes from eggs and toast, untouched by anyone else. She put the pen down and reached for something else. In her sewing kit behind the extra bobbins and dull scissors, she found the tiny voice recorder Lucy had used once for a school project. It still worked. The battery held. Loretta unscrewed the bottom of the spice cabinet and slid it back just far enough to wedge the recorder behind the turmeric and old cinnamon. She tested the angle. It pointed directly at the kitchen island, where Kendra spent most of her afternoons tapping away at her laptop or gossiping over speakerphone. It was a small gamble, but her instincts told her the kitchen would keep delivering. By evening, Brian had come home smelling faintly of gasoline and disappointment. Kendra had left her yoga mat rolled out across the living room and asked Loretta to make soup, and not that bland kind you usually do. Loretta didn't answer. She just stirred quietly, notebook hidden beneath a stack of coupons. The next morning, while the house still slept, Loretta retrieved the recorder and played it back through an old pair of headphones in the laundry room. Most of it was mundane. Kendra on the phone, complaining about traffic. Lucy asking about school supplies. Then, a pause. Footsteps, a fork clink, and Kendra's voice, low and cruel. Honestly, I wish she'd just fall down the stairs already. Would save us all the damn trouble. Loretta froze. Not because it was shocking, but because it wasn't. Somewhere inside, she'd known. She rewound it, played it again, let the words pour over her like ice water, fall down the stairs. Her hand trembled, but not with fear. She opened her notebook and wrote it down. Saturday, 4:16 p.m. Quote, wish she'd just fall down the stairs. Then underlined it. Twice. The printer whirred like a warning. Line by line, the words emerged in black and white, small, sharp phrases pulled from the poisoned air of her own kitchen. Loretta sat at the dining room table with her left hand steady on the paper tray, and her right still healing beneath its bandage. The transcripts curled slightly at the edges as they stacked. She's just bitter and bored. Maybe it's time we got her into somewhere, for safety. All she does is clean and nag. I didn't ask for a damn housekeeper. Each quote came with a date, a timestamp, and a quiet kind of vengeance. The voice recorder now lived in a rotating cycle behind the spice cabinet one day, the coat rack the next. Loretta had learned to blend it into the background like the woman she'd become, unnoticed until necessary. Across town, in the back room of a former church-turned-legal aid office, Travis Klein read through the growing pile with a thin-lipped expression of quiet outrage. Elder verbal abuse. Documented labor over a period of years. Co-owned property with intent to isolate and displace. He tapped the paper. This isn't a kitchen squabble, Loretta. This is a civil claim. She nodded once, slow and sure. We file now? She asked. Almost, Travis replied. We need one more piece, show how long you've done uncompensated domestic work. Meals, cleaning, house maintenance. Time equals money in court. Loretta pulled the green notebook from her purse, thick now with entries. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Back at the house, the atmosphere had shifted. Tighter, quieter. Kendra no longer shouted. She seethed. Her compliments came dipped in venom. Her silence felt like surveillance. And Brian finally said something. She was chopping carrots when he appeared beside her, unshaven and hollow-eyed. Why are you stirring all this up? He asked, tone low, wounded. Loretta didn't look at him. She laid the knife down gently and turned. I'm not stirring, I'm sorting, she said evenly. What's mine from what isn't? He blinked like the words stung, then turned away, shoulders hunched, not angry, just small. Later that night, as thunder rolled low outside, and the rain tapped a lazy rhythm against the windows, Loretta opened her door to find a folded piece of notebook paper tucked beneath it. Don't stop. She's scared of you now. I can tell. The handwriting was Lucy's, curved, careful, a child's courage handed off like a baton. Loretta placed it gently between the pages of her journal. By Thursday, Hattie had emailed back. I pulled comps from 2 blocks over. Property's worth about $80K more than when you helped them buy it. That number didn't make Loretta smile. It made her sit still for a long time. Not for greed, but for gravity. That house, her house too, had grown in value while she shrank inside it. The next morning, she made French toast the way Lucy liked it. Thick sliced, cinnamon heavy, just enough crisp. Kendra walked in halfway through plating, sniffed and said nothing. Loretta didn't offer a plate. That night, after the others were asleep, Loretta went to rinse the skillet, the one she'd burned her hand on, the one she'd used since Brian was in diapers. She opened the lower cabinet where it always lived. Empty, frowning. She checked the drying rack, then the storage bin below the stove. Gone. She crouched, slowly, and peered into the trash can. Nothing but plastic wrappers and a lipstick-stained napkin. But when she opened the outside bin near the back deck, the scent hit her first: scorched iron and grease. There it was. Her cast iron pan, broken at the handle, bent as if someone had jammed it between other trash bags, like garbage. Her breath caught, not in pain, but in realization. She reached down, lifted it carefully with a dish towel, and cradled it against her stomach like something dying. A symbol, a weapon, a witness. The new skillet came wrapped in brown paper and quiet intent. Loretta had driven herself to the hardware store on Jefferson, ignoring the throb in her wrapped hand. She chose the heaviest one they had, cast iron 12 inches, pre-seasoned, built to last. Like her. When the cashier asked, "Gift?" Loretta only said, "Correction." She left the receipt on the center of the kitchen table, under a small rock from Lucy's garden bed. Beside it, she placed a typed letter, 3 pages, signed and dated. To whom it concerns, I, Loretta M. Jameson, co-owner of the property at 1477 Briar Glen Drive, submit formal notice of intent to file a partition claim. She outlined every dollar she'd contributed, every meal she'd made, every hour of unpaid labor logged. Each page carried the silent weight of years spent being thanked with indifference and erased with entitlement. She made sure it was the first thing Kendra saw when she walked into the kitchen. Kendra read the top line, then yanked the receipt and letter off the table in one sweep. "You're serious," she snapped, eyes wide and brittle. "You're actually playing the legal card now." Loretta stood at the sink, drying her hands. "I'm not playing anything. I'm filing." Kendra tore the papers in half, then again, shredding them into jagged pieces like a furious child. "You're out of your mind." Lucy, who'd just walked in from school, flinched at the sound. "Mom, go to your room, Lucy." Kendra barked, the paper bits fluttering to the ground like falling leaves. Lucy bolted upstairs without a word. Loretta picked up the trash bin and set it calmly next to Kendra's feet. "Since you like throwing things away," she said, her voice cool and sharp, "you can finish the job." That afternoon, Travis sat across from Loretta in his office, reviewing the same letter Kendra had shredded, printed again from Loretta's USB, untouched this time. "She tore it up?" he asked, eyebrow raised. Loretta sipped her tea, like it insulted her instead of protected me. Travis smirked. "Well, let's give her something that bites back." He filed the formal co-ownership complaint and a partition request with the Greene County Court. He also attached an affidavit detailing her unpaid labor and audio evidence of verbal abuse. Loretta watched the digital submission bar fill to 100% with a stillness that bordered on serene. "Once the clerk approves," Travis said, "we move. But prepare yourself. They won't go quietly." He wasn't wrong. That evening, Brian stood in the hallway outside Loretta's bedroom, eyes red, voice low. "Ma, please," he said. "Can't we fix this quietly, without lawyers?" Loretta folded her laundry one shirt at a time. "I've been quiet. That's how we got here." He swallowed hard. "She's just under stress. It's not what you think." She paused and looked up at him. "What I think is that she threw out my skillet, told people I was unstable, and wants me out of a house I paid for. You can call that stress. I call it intent." Brian stepped back like her words slapped him, but she didn't soften. She folded the last towel and placed it on the stack. "I'm done fixing what you two break," she said. Within hours, Kendra struck back, digitally. A Facebook post appeared on her feed. "My MLL has lost it," accusing us of abuse and suing us over her own son's house. "Anyone know a cheap elder care place?" Asking for real. The comments filled with forced sympathy and veiled judgment, but one reply stood out. "Maybe she's just done being treated like a maid." Loretta saw it. She didn't comment. She simply saved the post and added it to her evidence file. 2 days later, Travis's phone lit up. The Greene County Court had responded. Court date approved, 9 days. The mailman hadn't even pulled away before Kendra was on the front lawn in leggings and fury, waving the court summons like it was a dirty dishcloth. Loretta watched from the window with her tea cooling in her hands. The neighbors out front, the Wilsons, the Baldwins, paused their gardening and dog walking just long enough to catch the tail end of Kendra's performance. "She's suing us," Kendra shouted, pacing in loud half circles. "No, really. My mother-in-law is suing us. Over a house she doesn't even own." The neighbors didn't say much, just nodded politely. But their eyes lingered longer than usual. Kendra noticed. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial hiss. "She's not well," she added. "She's paranoid. We've tried to help, but it's escalating." Loretta sipped her tea. That afternoon, she added 2 new screenshots to her folder, both from the neighborhood Facebook group, where Kendra had left trail of veiled accusations and manufactured concern. One read, "How do you help someone who refuses help, asking for a friend and a lawyer?" The comments were mixed. Some sympathetic, some skeptical, a few sharp. Loretta didn't reply to any of them. She just saved the thread, date-stamped it, and logged it beneath a new tab in her documentation. Public reputation smear. 8/3. She didn't waste time on bitterness. That wasn't her flavor anymore. By Tuesday, Lucy slipped into her room just after dinner, barefoot and cautious. She held her phone, looking more anxious than an 11-year-old should. "Grandma," she whispered. "Mom's been Googling stuff about conservatorships, like putting someone in one." Loretta's eyes didn't widen, her mouth didn't drop. She simply reached for her notebook and flipped to a fresh page. "Do you know what that is?" Lucy asked. "I do," Loretta said calmly. "It means someone wants control over someone else's life." Lucy's voice cracked. She said, "Maybe you're not safe anymore, that maybe the court could fix it." Loretta reached out and took her hand. "Don't worry, baby. If she wants to play court, she'll be the one sitting in the wrong chair." Later that night, Travis filed a formal claim of elder emotional abuse and retaliatory manipulation in a co-owned residence. He attached excerpts from the audio, transcripts from Loretta's logs, and screenshots of Kendra's online campaign. "I've seen this move before," Travis told her on the phone. "They try to paint the caregiver as the one losing grip, but the paper trail doesn't lie. You've got her cornered, Loretta." Loretta didn't smile. She nodded once and opened an email from Hattie. Subject line, appraisal attached. The PDF loaded slowly, but the number on the final page hit like a clean slap of truth. $392,000. $100,000 more than what they'd paid, most of it earned while Loretta was scrubbing grout, baking casseroles, and being treated like she didn't exist. She didn't hesitate. She opened a new document, titled it Last Will and Testament, Loretta M. Jameson, and began typing. Every line was deliberate. "To my granddaughter Lucy Jameson, I leave all equity and interest in the property at 1477 Briar Glen Drive. I intentionally make no provision for my son Brian Jameson, nor for his wife Kendra Jameson. This is with full awareness and intent." She printed it, signed it in ink, and slid it into a manila folder. That night, the house was quiet, unnaturally so. Loretta moved through it like someone in her own museum, careful not to disturb the silence, but unwilling to be part of it. She opened the fridge to prepare Lucy's lunch for the next day, and froze. Every dish she'd made ahead, her roasted chicken, the vegetable soup, the lasagna wrapped in foil, was gone. The shelves were wiped clean, not just moved, dumped. At the back of the top shelf, a single sticky note had been slapped against the white plastic wall. "Not your kitchen." Her pulse thudded once, twice, then settled. She peeled the note off and stared at it. The audacity wasn't shocking anymore. It was clarifying, like heat-clearing fog from glass. She didn't cry. She didn't call for Brian. She just turned off the fridge light, took the note with her, and walked back toward her bedroom, where her folder of evidence sat waiting. The scent of rosemary chicken filled only one room now, not the kitchen, not the dining area, just Loretta's bedroom, where a small cooler rested beneath her bed like a secret altar. Inside were neat containers, small portions of pasta salad, chicken cutlets, diced fruit in Ziploc bags, all labeled with Lucy's name. Every afternoon, when Lucy came home, Loretta would slip the child a plate wrapped in foil, warm it up in the microwave in the laundry room, and they'd sit cross-legged on the carpet, eating together under the soft hum of the ceiling fan. "What's the rule?" Loretta whispered once, placing a strawberry in the girl's palm. "No trash in the big bin, no dishes in the sink, and no talking about it." Lucy recited, voice like a spy in a mission movie. Then grinning, "You make better food than school anyway." Upstairs, the kitchen stayed cold. Loretta hadn't touched the oven since Kendra's sticky note. One night, Brian finally noticed. He walked into Loretta's room without knocking, arms crossed. "You're not cooking anymore?" he asked. "I am," Loretta replied, folding a towel without looking up. "Just not for people who don't know how to eat with decency." His jaw tightened. "You're punishing us." She met his eyes, calm, solid. "I'm correcting you." Then after a beat, "Why are you only asking now?" He didn't have a good answer. Just turned, muttered something about keeping the peace, and left. The door stayed open longer than necessary, like he hoped she'd call after him. She didn't. While the house simmered in awkward silences and slammed doors, Travis was at work. A hired investigator named Caleb parked a blue Civic down the street from the Jameson home and documented everything: who entered, who left, who did what. He logged the yard chores, Loretta every time. He noted the trash bins moved to the curb, Loretta again. He watched Kendra leave for 2-hour gym trips and come home to yell through the front door before it even closed. Travis forwarded the logs to Loretta in a password-protected file. "Paper beats tantrum," he wrote. "Every time." But Kendra wasn't done. One morning, Loretta sat on the porch with a thermos of coffee and opened her phone to a familiar. Kendra's Facebook. Pinned to the top was a new GoFundMe post. Title: "Help us protect our home from elder harassment." Text: "My mail is trying to take our house." We love her, but she's become unstable, aggressive, and legally manipulative. Please help us find legal protection and peace." Loretta nearly choked on her coffee, but then she scrolled. The comments came fast, and not the way Kendra wanted. "Sounds like she's finally standing up for herself. If you didn't want her suing you, maybe don't treat her like a servant. This feels shady. Where's her side of the story?" The fundraiser stalled at $84, then froze, then disappeared 2 days later. Lucy noticed too. She sat on the edge of Loretta's bed after school, hugging her knees. "She said something last night," the girl whispered, not meeting Loretta's eyes. "What kind of something?" "She said, you won't make it to court. She said she'll get rid of you without it." Loretta's breath caught, not in fear but in finality. It was the kind of sentence that moved a woman from passive to prepared. She kissed the top of Lucy's head and said only, "Thank you for telling me." Later that week, during her quiet afternoon laundry routine, Loretta folded a fresh sheet when a knock came at the front door, firm, rhythmic, authoritative. She opened it to find Deputy Merle Dodd standing in pressed uniform, clipboard in hand, his cruiser idling in the street behind him. "Ma'am," he said politely, adjusting his cap, "your daughter-in-law requested a wellness check." Loretta blinked once. "Come in, Deputy," she said, stepping aside with quiet grace. "Let me show you just how well I am." The moment Deputy Merle Dodd stepped through the door, Loretta caught the scent of fresh pine off his uniform and noticed how his eyes scanned the house, not for danger, but for detail. His gaze paused briefly on the hardwood floors, the spotless baseboards, the quiet hum of the dryer in the back hallway. "Nothing here," said unstable. "Afternoon, ma'am," he said gently, removing his cap. "Got a call from someone in your household expressing concern for your well-being. Mind if I take a moment to talk?" Loretta didn't flinch. "Of course, Deputy. Would you like some tea while you're here?" He blinked, just slightly thrown by her calm, but nodded. "Sure, that'd be nice." She led him into the kitchen, the scent of mint steeping already from a kettle she'd started the minute she saw his cruiser idle. Outside, Kendra still hovered across the street, phone angled, waiting for a performance Loretta had no intention of giving. They sat at the table, Loretta with a composed stillness that had become her armor. She set the tea in front of him, then opened a slim accordion folder she'd placed deliberately beside her notebook. The documents inside were arranged in color-coded tabs: green daily journals, red receipts and invoices from groceries, household items, medication, blue her notarized psychological evaluation from 2 weeks ago, clean, sound, and signed by a state-licensed clinical therapist. Deputy Dodd flipped through the documents slowly, nodding, occasionally scribbling notes in his pad. "She said you'd become erratic," he murmured. "Danger to yourself and possibly others." Loretta took a sip of her tea. "Does that look like a danger to you, Deputy?" Dodd looked up from the evaluation, a thin smile forming. "Ma'am," he said, "you're the most organized person I've stepped into a kitchen with all week." He paused, his tone shifting. "And I think someone's trying to use the system to silence you. Weaponizing elder services happens more often than folks admit. You might want to file a statement." Loretta nodded slowly. "I already have a lawyer, Travis Klein. I'll ask him to add it to the record." As if summoned by thought, her phone buzzed on the table. A message from Travis. "Got it. Filing retaliation amendment this afternoon. Stay steady. We're close." Deputy Dodd stood after finishing his tea and offered a respectful nod. "If you feel unsafe at any point, call me directly. And keep those records safe. The truth has a way of rising when it's well documented." After he left, Loretta closed the front door with a soft click and turned toward the hallway, only to see Lucy peeking from the stairwell. "He didn't believe her, did he?" the girl whispered. Loretta shook her head. "No, baby. He believed the paper." Lucy walked down, almost in a tiptoe. "She's scared now, I can tell. She keeps locking her door when she's on the phone." "Good," Loretta said, rubbing her thumb over the corner of her folder. "Maybe silence will teach her what shouting never did." Later that evening, Hattie emailed a batch of new property comparables. The local market had surged again, 3-bedroom ranches within 3 blocks selling above asking. Loretta's equity stake $174,800. The number didn't surprise her, but it did solidify something deeper. She wasn't just defending her pride anymore. She was defending her share of real wealth, her legal standing, her right to dignity. She printed the equity summary and slid it into the folder behind the blue tab, careful not to wrinkle the edges. Just as she sat back down, her phone rang again. This time Travis. "Loretta," he said flatly, "you're not going to like this." Her fingers curled around the receiver. "Try me." "Kendra's filed a petition with the court," he continued. "She's requesting emergency power of attorney. Claims you're losing mental faculties." Loretta exhaled, slow and long, like steam leaving a kettle that refused to whistle. The courtroom was colder than it needed to be. Not from the AC, but from the tension. Loretta sat in the front row, hands folded neatly over her folder like it was an heirloom quilt. She wore her best navy blue blouse, the one with the stitched collar Lucy had picked out for her last Christmas. Her lips were bare, her hair pinned tight, her expression unreadable. Kendra sat across the aisle, flanked by a high-priced attorney in a too-tight blazer. She looked good, sharpened and polished, but her foot tapped constantly under the table. Brian sat beside her, shoulders slouched, staring straight ahead like someone watching his own mistakes roll by on a conveyor belt. The clerk called the matter, and Judge Hellman, a man with silver hair and no tolerance for theatrics, adjusted his glasses. "Petitioner alleges deteriorating mental state and requests emergency power of attorney," he began, flipping through the packet. Kendra's team had submitted. "Is the respondent present?" Travis rose with Loretta's file in hand. "She is, Your Honor. Respondent is Loretta M. Jameson. We have filed a counter-petition and are submitting a notarized mental competency evaluation conducted 2 weeks ago. Results normal cognitive function. No signs of diminished capacity." He handed over the papers. Crisp, signed, notarized. The judge flipped through them for less than a minute before sliding them aside like junk mail. "Petition for power of attorney is denied," he said flatly. "This request is clearly retaliatory and unfounded. It reeks of motive." Kendra's mouth parted, but her lawyer gripped her elbow. Loretta didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The paper had already spoken. But it wasn't over. As the court adjourned and the gallery began to empty, Kendra stormed past Loretta in the hallway, heels snapping like gunfire on the tile. "You're tearing this family apart," she hissed under her breath, eyes venomous. Loretta turned slowly, her voice soft but lined with iron. "You never let me be part of it." Kendra blinked, just for a second, and then pushed open the doors like they were beneath her. Outside, the sun hit Loretta's face in a warm, forgiving light. Hattie stood by her car with Lucy, who broke into a run the second she saw her grandmother. "Did we win?" Lucy asked breathlessly. Loretta nodded. "We didn't lose." Hattie grinned. "That's a win in Missouri courts." They drove to Ruby's diner and split a slice of warm apple pie with cheddar crust. Lucy added whipped cream to hers, even though she usually hated it. Loretta didn't ask why. She knew. They were making a new tradition, one bite at a time. "You're not what she says," Lucy murmured between bites. "You're the most together person I know." Loretta smiled gently. "Then let's make sure the court knows it too." That night, the house was silent, except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional thump from upstairs. Brian knocked on Loretta's door just after 10. She was already in her robe, organizing paperwork in bed. He stood in the hallway, like a boy about to admit to breaking something valuable. "She's angry," he said. "She's always angry," Loretta replied, not looking up. "If you keep going," he said slowly, "she'll leave me." Loretta set her papers down and looked at her son. Really looked at him, his sagging shoulders, thinning hair, the weight in his eyes that came from years of picking silence over spine. "Then maybe she should," Loretta said. He didn't speak. He just stood there for a few moments longer, then turned and walked back down the hall. The oven was cold, the table bare, and the only thing simmering in the kitchen that evening was tension. Loretta stood at the threshold of the dining room, her hands folded in front of her apron, clean, unworn. For the first time in 21 years, she hadn't cooked dinner. No garlic browning on the stovetop, no cornbread cooling on the rack, no second plate for Brian, no plate at all. Brian stared at the empty table like it might sprout food on its own. "Where's dinner?" he asked, half hopeful, half confused. "I didn't make any," Loretta said evenly. Kendra barked out a bitter laugh from the couch. "Oh, look at her, suddenly in protest mode." Loretta didn't blink. "I no longer serve ungrateful mouths. You're seriously going to starve your own son to make a point?" Kendra shot back, standing now, arms crossed. "That's not just petty, it's cruel." "No," Loretta said, calm as ever. "Cruel is tossing out the meals I made with a note that said, 'Not your kitchen.' Cruel is weaponizing kindness until it breaks." Brian looked like he wanted to disappear into the upholstery. Can't we all eat together like normal?" "There's nothing normal about silence," Loretta replied, "and I won't pretend anymore." That's when Kendra snapped. "Oh, please," she spat, turning to Lucy, who had just walked into the room. "Your grandmother's lost her mind. She's using the court to manipulate us. She's trying to poison you against your own parents." Lucy stiffened in the doorway. "You want to talk about poison?" she asked quietly. "She didn't hit you, Dad, but she hit her with words. Every single day." Kendra went rigid. Brian said nothing. Lucy, shaking now, walked back out of the room without looking at either of them. Loretta didn't follow. She didn't need to. The truth had already been served. The next morning, Travis submitted new audio to the court, a clipped, angry recording from 2 weeks prior. In it, Kendra could be heard muttering under her breath while slamming a cabinet, "She's not even good for anything anymore. She just hangs around, waiting for someone to notice she exists. If she croaked tomorrow, I wouldn't even need to change my routine." It was 10 seconds long, but it landed like a sledgehammer. Travis sent Loretta the court-stamped confirmation. Evidence accepted. Uploaded to her partition claim and abuse affidavit. Then a message followed. "We push now, but Hattie suggests giving them a final chance to settle. Buy you out or leave." Loretta met Hattie at the real estate office later that day. The building still smelled like dry paper and Windex. She sat across from her old friend, fingers tight around the edges of the folder. "You sure you want to offer this?" Hattie asked. "They've done everything but set the house on fire." Loretta nodded. "This isn't an olive branch. It's a deadline." By 5 p.m., Travis delivered the official settlement letter. Option A, Brian and Kendra could buy out Loretta's 49% stake, now valued at $176,300. Option B, they agree to leave quietly, allowing Loretta full occupancy. They declined within 24 hours. No negotiation, no counter. "Let them burn their own bridge," Travis said, voice tight. "Now we let the court finish what they started." That Friday a letter arrived by certified mail. The envelope bore the county seal. Loretta held it under the kitchen light and opened it slowly, like a woman slicing through history. Inside, petition for exclusive property use, granted pending final ruling. Her hands trembled, but not from nerves. She placed the letter on the table where dinner once was served, and whispered to herself, "Now this kitchen is mine." The locksmith didn't ask questions. He was in and out within 30 minutes, whistling softly through his teeth as he replaced the lock on the pantry door and installed a deadbolt on Loretta's bedroom. "Legal authorization right here," Loretta said, handing him the court order with the county seal embossed on the top. He glanced at it, then at her, eyes flickering with recognition. "You're the lady from that Facebook video, huh? The one with the GoFundMe mess." Loretta just smiled, lips pressed thin. "That's me. The unstable one with the locked pantry." By the end of the day, her groceries were secured behind the new metal handle, and her journals and documents sat safely in a file cabinet next to her bed. No more tossed meals. No more missing receipts. No more open access. Kendra returned late that evening to find her name no longer carried weight inside the kitchen she used like a throne. She tugged on the pantry door, then banged on it with the side of her fist. What the hell is this? Loretta at the sink rinsed her tea mug without turning around. It's mine. The court said so. Kendra scoffed and stormed off, muttering about abuse of power and senility in the system, but her voice had lost its venom. It grated now, shrill and cornered. That night, Brian didn't sleep in the bedroom. He moved a twin mattress into the den and didn't say why. Loretta didn't ask. The walls had long since stopped needing words to tell their stories. The days grew quiet, not peaceful, but tolerable. Lucy started eating at the kitchen counter again, feet dangling off the stool, her plate of macaroni steaming beside Loretta's simple dinner. They didn't speak much during those meals, but Lucy's silence was not like her mother's. It was a comfort, a kind of gratitude, a quiet that said thank you without a sound. "You okay, sugar?" Loretta asked once, setting a napkin beside her. Lucy nodded, chewing. "Better now." Outside the windows, late summer drifted toward fall. The garden began to dry. The neighborhood buzzed with back-to-school sales and morning sprinklers, but inside the house something new had taken root. Possession, not just legal but emotional. It was Loretta's space now. Hattie came by with a stack of property brochures and a serious expression. "Still want to move after the ruling?" she asked, laying down comps. "You've got enough equity now to go anywhere. You could buy a cottage with cash, no mortgage." Loretta traced her finger along the edge of the paper, then shook her head. I might not. Let's see who leaves first." Meanwhile, Travis filed an amended suit. Civil damages for unpaid domestic labor, emotional abuse, and retaliatory legal action. The packet was thick, damning, and precise. "This isn't about eviction anymore," he told Loretta over the phone. "This is restitution. This is respect." The official summons came by hand delivery. Deputy Merle Dodd arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, hat in hand, a gentle knock on the front door. "Ma'am," he said, nodding as Loretta opened the door. "I've got papers for Kendra and Brian Jameson. Civil claim. They've been formally named as defendants." Loretta stepped aside, letting him in without a word. Brian appeared in the hallway first, hair a mess, socks mismatched. Kendra followed moments later, wearing sunglasses indoors, and reeking faintly of wine and tanning lotion. Dodd handed each their envelope. Kendra looked at Loretta like the whole world had betrayed her. "You're suing us? Both of us?" "I'm holding you accountable," Loretta said. "Same thing." Kendra's mouth twisted. She looked around as if the house itself might turn against her. And maybe in a way it already had. The summons slipped from her fingers. "You miserable old." Then came the crash. She grabbed a drinking glass from the sideboard and hurled it across the room, eyes wild. It shattered against the wall, inches from Loretta's hand. Brian shouted. Lucy screamed from upstairs, but Loretta, she didn't move. She just looked down at the shards, then back at Kendra. Her voice, when it came, was low and steady. "Now you've made it easy." The courtroom smelled faintly of old carpet and new ink. Loretta sat at the petitioner's table in her dark gray skirt suit, hands folded neatly atop a worn leather folder, the one that had carried every log, every receipt, every insult transcribed into proof. She wasn't trembling. Her fingers were still, her breath measured, not because she wasn't nervous, but because nerves no longer served her. Power did. Travis leaned slightly toward her. "Just like we practiced, the paper speaks first. Let them raise hell. We'll raise evidence." Across the aisle, Kendra wore white, not a soft ivory or tasteful cream, white like a costume, like a purity she thought she could wear into court. Brian sat beside her, pale and silent, lips pressed so tight they seemed to vanish into his face. The bailiff called the case number. Judge Hellman adjusted his glasses and began reading aloud. The air settled, heavy and still. Travis stood, clearing his throat with measured weight. "Your Honor, we submit documentation covering 18 months of verbal harassment, labor exploitation, financial contribution without compensation, retaliatory legal threats, and the respondent's ongoing attempts to remove Miss Jameson from property she legally co-owns. He laid the folder on the bench. Tab 1. Photos of injuries sustained in the home. Tab 2. Audio recordings of emotional abuse. Tab 3. Verified contributions to the home's down payment. Tab 4. Notarized journals tracking daily domestic labor. He paused. Tab 5. The defendant's own words. The audio played from a portable speaker, crystal clear. Kendra's voice filled the courtroom. "I wish she'd just fall down the stairs already. Would save us the trouble." The words echoed, louder than they had in Loretta's spice cabinet. Kendra flinched. The courtroom didn't. Travis stepped back. The judge nodded. "Miss Jameson, do you wish to speak?" Loretta stood. "I have nothing new to say," she replied, her voice clear. "Just the same truth, finally heard." She handed over her notebook, her burned photos, and a printout of the sticky note, "Not your kitchen." The judge turned to Kendra. "Miss Jameson, do you have a response to the abuse claim?" Kendra's chair scraped back. "She's old," she snapped, voice rising. "She's bitter. She's trying to ruin us over some burnt chicken and old receipts. This whole thing is a joke. She's making a circus out of our lives, because she's miserable." The judge didn't blink. "She may be older than you," he said coolly, "but she is not lesser. She is protected. And you are evicted." The words dropped like a gavel before the judge even touched his. "Effective immediately," he continued. "Full residential ownership is awarded to Miss Loretta Jameson under elder abuse exemption and verified majority contribution. The respondents, Brian and Kendra Jameson, are to vacate the property within 10 business days and pay petitioners' legal costs in full." Silence. Kendra's jaw went slack. Brian looked at his hands like they belonged to someone else. Loretta remained standing, spine straight, the strength of 1,000 quiet nights holding her in place. When the gavel finally fell, it didn't sound like an end. It sounded like release. Outside, the late summer breeze tugged gently at Loretta's skirt. Lucy waited on the courthouse steps with Hattie, swinging her legs off the bench. "Did we win?" she asked. Eyes wide. "We did," Loretta said. Her voice still steady. Hattie grinned. "More than win, you set precedent." They walked down the courthouse stairs together, slow and deliberate, 3 generations in stride. Travis handed Loretta a final envelope before getting into his car. "One last copy of the ruling." 10 days, he said, tapping it, "then it's yours." That evening, Loretta sat at the kitchen table, the house unusually quiet. No shouting, no slamming doors. Just the hum of the fridge and the soft patter of Lucy's feet upstairs. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Brian. "She's gone. I don't know where. I'm staying with a friend. I can't face you right now." The letter was short, just 2 paragraphs, but each word landed like a plate set down with quiet finality. To Kendra Jameson, due to your failure to comply with court-mandated restitution, we are initiating wage garnishment. Please note, further delays may result in a lien. This is not a threat. It is the law. T. Klein, Elder Justice Initiative. Travis had copied Loretta on the email. No subject line. No drama. Just results. She read it once, nodded, and moved it to a folder labeled "Closed." The fight wasn't over because of rage or regret. It was over because the truth had been baked, served, and cleared from the table. That same morning, Hattie dropped by with a fresh for sale sign in her trunk and a catalog of listings in her hand. "Buyers are sniffing," she said, setting the binder on Loretta's kitchen counter. "You could get top dollar now, maybe even above asking. Clean break. Walk out with a big check and no more shadows." Loretta didn't even open the binder. "I'm not walking," she said. "I'm cooking. My way. Sunday dinners, back porch rumor, pulls Lucy in the garden. I bought my piece. I plan to use it." Hattie grinned. "You want me to take the sign back? Better give it to someone who still thinks running is the only way to win." They both laughed, but only Loretta's laugh lingered. 2 weeks later, Lucy dug her small hands into the backyard dirt, planting a tomato sprout with quiet concentration. She wore gloves 3 sizes too big. rubber boots over her socks, and Loretta's old apron tied like a cape around her back. "I want cherry tomatoes and beefsteak," Lucy announced. "And maybe pumpkins later. We'll see what the soil can handle," Loretta said, kneeling beside her, sleeves rolled up. The garden bed wasn't perfect. The fence was still crooked, and the ground was dry in patches, but it was theirs. And for the first time in over a year, the house felt like it belonged to the people who watered it. That evening, after Lucy had left with her overnight bag, Loretta opened the envelope that had arrived by courier, the final title transfer. Deed holder: Loretta M. Jameson. Sole owner: previous co-owners, Brian Jameson, Kendra Jameson. Legally removed. No more shared names. No more bargaining. She signed it in black ink at her kitchen table with a slice of cornbread beside her, and a lemon candle flickering near the sink. She didn't cry. She didn't cheer. She simply smiled. Then, as if completing a final page in her private recipe book, Loretta pulled open the old spice cabinet one last time. Her fingers found the hidden panel, the spot where she'd once lodged a tiny recorder between cinnamon and paprika. It still had weight to it. A bit of dust. She boxed it up, added a handwritten label: Elder Exploitation Recorder, Loretta Case #0049, and mailed it to Travis's office for use in future trainings. "Let them hear what silence really sounds like," she whispered. Word traveled quickly in Springfield. Kendra's GoFundMe was suspended after complaints of fraud and misrepresentation. Screenshots of court rulings posted by anonymous users, including the infamous "Not Your Kitchen" sticky note. Brian vanished offline entirely. No updates, no posts, just a blank profile picture and a public apology that quietly disappeared within hours. No forwarding address, no explanation. Loretta didn't look for him. He had made his bed. She had finally made hers. That night, just before sunset, she stepped onto the porch to find a small cardboard box sitting by the steps. No postage, no return address, no name. She knelt beside it. Slowly, inside, wrapped in crumpled newspaper, was the old skillet, the same one she had burned her hand on months ago. The cast iron was still scorched, its handle cracked, the bottom discolored from years of use and one final act of cruelty. She lifted it out gently, held it in both hands. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a gift. It was something stranger. A return. The last thing they had tried to break. Still here. Still hers. Loretta dipped the sponge into warm vinegar water and scrubbed the inside of the microwave, slow and steady. Not because it was particularly dirty. It wasn't. But because this time she wasn't cleaning up after someone else's carelessness. She was wiping away what no longer belonged to her story. Resentment, apology, silence. The windows were already done. The floors mopped twice. The baseboards gleamed. Even the junk drawer had been emptied and reordered. No more expired coupons. No more keys to rooms that no longer held secrets. This wasn't a purge. It was a renewal. She opened the kitchen cabinets next, feeling the slight click of the hinges she'd tightened herself just 2 days prior. The old off-white paint had started to yellow with time, but not anymore. The gallon of soft honey from the hardware store sat ready on the counter, lid pried open, brush in hand. Lucy had picked the color, holding the swatch up to the light and declaring, "It looks like sunshine when it's just waking up." 3 coats later, the kitchen glowed. By the end of the week, the house smelled of citrus, Murphy's oil soap, and something faintly floral, like summer refusing to bow to fall. Loretta stood in the doorway to the living room, with a quiet pride that wasn't loud or showy, just hers. On Sunday, Hattie hosted a porch brunch in Loretta's honor. Neighbors trickled in with glass dishes wrapped in foil, Tupperware full of casseroles, deviled eggs, and one suspiciously dense zucchini bread. Folding chairs lined the driveway. Someone brought sweet tea in mason jars. A slow country record spun from a Bluetooth speaker someone had propped up on a cooler. "You're a legend, you know," whispered Dana from 2 houses down, handing over a peach cobbler. "We all saw the court record online. Not a lot of women would have stood their ground like that." Loretta just smiled. Took me long enough. Deputy Merle Dodd arrived mid-morning in uniform, off-duty but still looking official, holding a store-bought cherry pie like it was fragile cargo. "We see a lot of messes," he said, tipping his hat. "But you cleaned house right." They sat together for a moment, eating quietly as laughter floated across the porch. Lucy flitted between chairs like a hummingbird, collecting compliments and refilling lemonade cups. Loretta watched her move, carefree and present, and felt something inside her settle, like a pot finally set on a stable burner. The following Thursday, Travis took the stage at the Springfield Elder Justice Initiative's annual fundraiser. The sanctuary-turned-event hall still bore stained glass above the windows, and Loretta sat in the second row beneath the image of a lion lying beside a lamb. Travis's speech was brief, but it struck like a gavel. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it cooks. Sometimes it cleans. Sometimes it simply refuses to be erased. He didn't name Loretta directly. He didn't have to. When he stepped down, 3 women in the row behind her reached forward to touch her shoulder. One slipped a business card into her palm without a word. That night, she wrote a check for $1,000 and mailed it anonymously to the foundation. She signed it with a note, "For the next woman who needs a skillet and a spine." 2 days later, Lucy opened the mailbox at the end of Loretta's driveway, humming something off-key. She flipped through the usual stack of junk mail and flyers, until her fingers paused on a single matte postcard, speckled in desert dust. A jackrabbit mid-leap across orange clay. No return address, just a Santa Fe postmark. She turned it over. One line, scrawled in looping pen: "Some stories get burned. Some just start in the fire." Lucy blinked. "It's from her," she whispered. She looked back toward the house, where Loretta stood watering the tomatoes. The sun caught the yellow cabinets through the kitchen window, bright, bold, defiant. The skillet hissed with approval as Loretta laid a buttered cornbread round onto its center, the scent of rosemary and browned onions lifting like memory from the pan. Her hands moved with the kind of grace that only comes after decades of repetition, not rushed, not cautious, just sure. Outside, dusk melted into the trees. Inside, the kitchen glowed gold beneath the new soft white bulbs she'd installed herself. It was warm, not just from the oven or the heat radiating off the stove, but from something older, something reclaimed. She plated everything with quiet ceremony: roasted chicken breast, garlic green beans, 1 square of peach cobbler, no extra forks, no muttered criticisms, no chair left empty for someone who'd never deserved the seat. For the first time in a long time, Loretta cooked a full meal, and for the first time ever, it was entirely for her. She carried the plate to the dining table, the good one, polished and set with her favorite blue napkin. She poured herself a glass of iced tea, lemon wedge floating perfectly in the middle, and sat. No one asked for salt. No one rolled their eyes. No one talked over her. She took the first bite, and the silence didn't feel hollow. It felt earned. After the second bite, she remembered the envelope Lucy had tucked into her coat pocket 2 nights ago. Bright construction paper, crayon stars around the edges. She reached for it now, unfolded it gently. Inside was a school worksheet titled, "My Hero." Beneath it, in Lucy's careful handwriting, "My hero is my grandma Loretta. She takes care of herself and knows how to stand up without yelling. She says people can try to push you out of a place, but if you built the walls, they can't take the roof. She makes me feel safe. And her green beans are better than anyone's. She's not just my grandma, she's my beginning." Loretta folded the paper back up, lips parting slightly but no tears falling. Not this time. Her heart didn't ache. It bloomed. After dinner, she rinsed her plate and dried it by hand, slow circular motions like wiping away old fingerprints. She walked the perimeter of the house, checking each lock: front door, side door, back porch. The narrow bathroom window Kendra once kept cracked to smoke menthols after dark. Each lock clicked into place under her hand. Her hand. Her house. Her peace. The final key, silver engraved with a small sunflower, turned smoothly in the new deadbolt she'd installed on her bedroom door. Before she climbed into bed, she pulled out her phone. Brian's contact sat there like a wound she'd kept dressed for too long. She tapped, held, deleted. The screen returned to calm. She retrieved the Santa Fe postcard from the recipe box and studied it for a moment under the soft lamplight. No return address, just the word sorry. Too late, too empty. She dropped it into the trash can, closed the lid. No dramatics, no monologue, just space. The oven timer dinged, 3 soft beeps, like a voice calling from a room that no longer held ghosts. Loretta returned to the kitchen, removed the cobbler from the oven, and let the scent rise. Sugar, cinnamon, something slightly burnt at the edge that reminded her she was still learning to make things just for herself. She plated a second square, this one for tomorrow, and labeled the container LJ with a Sharpie. She would eat it cold with tea while sitting on the porch, maybe barefoot, maybe humming. She turned out the lights one by one, the glow receding until only the stove remained warm beneath the skillet. Her hand brushed over its handle. It was heavy, yes, but not as heavy as it used to be. They said I was only useful in the kitchen. They were right. It's where I learned to take back everything they tried to burn.